Lucky here. Today we've got the Moog Labyrinth. This one's really exciting. They're describing it as a parallel generative analog synthesizer, and it does a few quirky things that are really fun. We're going to be taking a quick overlook and how to get started with the dual generative sequencer. Really, this thing is just super fun to explore because there aren't really any wrong things you can do with it. Because it's all generative and it's all a self-enclosed synthesizer voice, you can really just get lost with it, from the voltage controlled wave folder they've introduced to the parallel voice path that they're sort of going for. So let's get into it. Just before I get started, this is entirely just for looks. Got a little oscilloscope to monitor my signal, and we're going to be using the Spectravox as well to process some things later, and maybe a guest appearance from the DFAM. So we've got a single voltage controlled oscillator. We've also got a mod VCO for modulating that oscillator. So this is really our kind of sound source and mixer section. And then if you sort of move to the middle, we've got a voltage controlled wave folder and a voltage controlled filter. And the cool thing about this is that they are parallel voice paths. So you can process the sound source either parallel or in any combination. So using this little switch here, I can switch it between going from the wave folder to the voltage controlled filter, parallel, or the filter to the wave folder. So you can actually kind of see, then we've just got the individual controls for the filter and wave folder. So if you kind of look at it from left to right, we've got our sound source into the wave folder and filter section, and then the controls for the filter and wave folder. And then as customary, we've got the patch bay which is common on all the Moog semi-modular family members. So this is its own synthesizer voice, but you can also patch it using the patch bay. So the heart of Labyrinth is the dual sequencer down the bottom here, because this is really the powerhouse of Labyrinth. It has got two 8-bit sequences, so they refer to bits instead of steps, and you can chain that together to create a 16-bit sequence. And they give you a range of controls to randomize and generate random sequences to create melodies, drums, and everything in between. Quick tip, if you've gotten lost into Labyrinth and you just want to quickly reset, hold buffer and press reset to reset the sequencer to a blank state. Make sure that you have chain sequence set off, and now we have both lanes reset and ready to go. So if I just hit sequence, we're not going to hear anything because I don't have any bits turned on. So what I can start to do is I can start to flip the bits from an off state to an on state, and we'll start to get some randomly generated information. So let's go ahead. Let's get maybe a lower. So we've got a randomly generated dual sequence. A couple of things I can do from here is I can change the length of the generated sequence from 8 all the way down to 1. I can also shift the sequence. So if I press shift, it shifts over to 1 bit. And I can do this, I have these individual controls per lane of sequence. Then what I can do is I can corrupt that sequence. So if we run the sequence and I start to corrupt it, it starts to randomize whether a bit is flipped on or off. So let's run it. Might shift that one. Corrupt it all the way up. You can actually start to see the bits randomly flip on and off. So now we have an evolving and generative dual sequencer that will never give me the same pattern twice. Next thing I can do is, at the moment, I have the range of pitches all the way to the left, so I'm only going to get one pitch. So if I actually increase the CV range, I can generate different ranges of pitches and therefore start to generate melodies. To do this, I must have sequence 1 and 2 quantized, so that I'm actually quantizing the randomly generated voltages to a scale, which you can do internally. So let's do that now. Just generating one pitch. I'm going to start to introduce more pitch variation. Cool. increase the tempo a bit. From there, I can actually choose a scale to quantize to, and there is this handy little card which lets you choose a scale to quantize to. So I'm just going to chuck on a pentatonic because that is one of the safest scales. Fight me. So number 5, 2, 4, 5. Cool. And the other thing to note is every time you either corrupt or flip, you will generate another random value for that bit, which sort of creates and maintains that sort of evolving generative nature of the sequencer. So if we run this, so now I've got both sequences generating a random pentatonic sequence. If I hold bit flip, as the sequencer is running, it will flip that bit on and off as you run through the sequence. Let's run it again and generate a few more different sequences. Turn up the CV range to cool, and so you can just tweak or you can even just program it yourself in until you find something that you like. There's a variety of other utilities for you to save and mess with that generative sequencer. So back to the parallel voicing of Labyrinth, we can actually not only choose the order of the way we run the oscillator through the wave folder and cutoff, but we can blend between the two using this blend function. So you'll see voltage control wave folder on the left, VCF on the right, and I can blend between the two using the blend function. VCW bias has to do with how the wave is actually folded in on itself. And for the filter, we can actually blend between a low pass and a band pass filter, both with resonance. So we actually got a lot of customizability in the way that we can process our sound source. So if we just run that again, I've got it all the way to a low pass, you can actually get a bit more of a drum-like sound. And then if I turn that all the way to the VCF, I can just use traditional subtractive synthesis methods. Now I'm going to introduce the wave folder a bit more and blend between the waves too. And now I can actually introduce a bit of FM by modulating the VCO with the mod VCO. That's pretty hot. Cool, so I'm actually pretty happy with that, not only the sequence that's been generated, but the sound that I've got. So now I'm just gonna add some drums. So we've got DFAM on drums, we've got Labyrinth generating a pattern, and I'm just going to put the cherry on top by processing Labyrinth with Spectravox to introduce a bit of filtering. So let's start off Labyrinth. Yeah, nice. So I've just got some random bands going on. We're going to shift through this frequencies. Cool, and let's kick it off with drums. And that's Moog Labyrinth.